You're listening to Results Driven Organizations Podcast with Dr. Taunya Lowe, a podcast of curated conversations with C-suite leaders and those who support organizational growth and development. Get ready for inspiring interviews, educational lessons, and thought-provoking discussions that will challenge you to execute something new and innovative that will drive results in your organization. And now, here's Dr. Taunya Lowe.
Hello, you're listening to Season 5 of the Results Driven Organizations Podcast with Dr. Taunya Lowe. Using my results-driven philosophy of strategy, leadership, teams, and customer experiences, I help organizations develop their best-kept secret, their human capital. This podcast is designed to expand the conversation with C-suite leaders and those who support organizational growth and development, and what it really takes to create, develop, and maintain high-performing and results-driven organizations. Today, we're diving into a topic that many of us have experienced, but few are willing to discuss openly. What happens when the leader doesn't realize that he or she is the problem? I really want to talk about leaders who are inconsistent, surrounded by yes people, avoid accountability, and sidestep confrontation. It really creates an environment where apathy flourishes and innovation dies. People just stop trying. They go along to get along. They fall into groupthink. And you look up and your organization is not growing. And more importantly, what happens here is it becomes a cycle that's destructive. So let me paint a picture that might sound familiar. An organization that once buzzed with energy now feels stagnant. Turnover is increasing. New ideas are met with indifference or resistance. And even though that's happening, you might notice pockets of excellence. And what that is teams that somehow maintain their drive despite the culture, but their impact rarely spreads throughout the organization. As management expert Peter Drucker observed, so much of what we call management consists of making it difficult for people to work. Yikes! When leadership is the problem, this difficulty becomes systemic. So grab a pen and some paper. Let's break it down. Before we can address leadership problems, we have to look at, before we can address how to fix the problems, we got to look at and recognize the patterns. Do you fall in any of these 4 patterns that I'm going to talk about today? So the first one is inconsistency. When leaders say one thing, but they do another. How many of us know leaders like that? Here's the solution. If you're a leader, align your words and actions through conscious habit formation. Document your public commitments and schedule regular self-audits to check for alignment. Ask a trusted friend or colleague to point out inconsistencies when they observe them. But look. You can't ask somebody to point out your inconsistencies and then you start feeling some kind of way. If you trust them, trust that they are seeing what they're seeing. The second thing is when a leader surrounds themselves with yes people, rejecting or punishing dissent. So here's the solution around that. Deliberately assign someone the role of devil's advocate in meetings. That's right. You're going to assign someone the role of being the devil's advocate to intentionally go against the direction that you're going in. Institute a no penalty policy for constructive criticism and demonstrate appreciation when team members challenge your thinking. We like to call that positive conflict. If you can create positive conflict within your organization or within the organization or within a meeting, you're going to get better ideas. And here's another thing. Keep in mind that what is being discussed, you can separate the idea from the person, or you can separate the issue from the person. We're not dragging, as they say, the individual, but there's something flawed about the idea or the movement in which the organization is going, and it just needs some positive critique so we can finesse it and move in a better way. So if you're a leader who you surround yourself with yes people, you're going to always, you're never going to get the best out of your team. The third thing is avoiding responsibility. Are you a leader who avoids responsibility? Blaming external factors for failures while claiming credit for successes. So here's the solution. Practice public accountability by openly acknowledging your contributions to failures. How did you contribute to the failure? Ouch. Yeah, if you're a leader, most of the time you do not want to do that. But I promise you, by doing this, you're going to create a team norm of conducting blameless post-mortems that focus on systemic improvements rather than individual fault. People are going to say, you know what, that was my fault, instead of throwing people under the bus. I hope y'all are still with me. So the first one is, are you a leader who's inconsistent? The second one is, are you a leader who surrounds yourself with yes people? The third one is, are you a leader who avoids responsibility? Are you ready for four? Are you ready for four? Number four, sidestepping confrontation. Are you a leader who hates confrontation? Avoid difficult conversations that address the problems. Is that you? Am I on your foot? Here's an example, just in case if you don't know it's you or not. A team leader who observes declining quality in a team member's work, but avoids addressing it directly. You just put your head in the sand. Yeah, yeah. If that's you, that's a problem. So here's a solution. What we're going to do is adopt Kim Scott's radical candor approach. And I love this approach by Kim. Caring personally while challenging directly. I care about you, but I'm going to challenge you on what I'm seeing. I'm going to challenge you on the behavior that is affecting the team and the organization in this moment. So you can schedule regular one-on-ones specifically for feedback exchange as well as encouragement. And you can frame confrontation as a commitment to someone's growth rather than criticism. So again, using this radical candor approach. Hey, we love what you're doing here, but we really need to talk about that last decision or that last report or that last order, and just be honest about it. Don't put your head in the sand. And I promise you, the more you practice it, the better you're going to be. And your team will appreciate you for it because they see what's happening. People are always watching, and they see it, and they see you not addressing it. So deal with it. These four areas have a tremendous impact on organizations. It ripples through organizations in predictable ways. There's a Gallup poll. They did research on employee engagement, and 70% of the variance in team engagement is determined solely by the leader or the manager. So when leaders fail, we see three primary symptoms. Apathy becomes the default. Employees learn that speaking up is futile. So they just stop trying. Like, it's not going to matter. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to let it crash and burn. Who wants a team or employees with that attitude? Leaders, it's up to you to change that. So leaders, if you've been that person who, I don't want to hear anything negative, I don't want to hear anything negative about this process, about this person, about this blah, 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 then people are not going to say anything. They will allow it to crash and burn. So you have to change your mindset. The second thing is innovation withers. Without psychological safety, people will continue to act in self-protective ways that inhibit learning and innovation. If it's not safe for me to speak up, then I'm going to keep my thoughts to myself, the positive and the negative. I don't feel safe here. I don't want the retaliation. And so this person could have some amazing ideas, some amazing thoughts, but because of the environment, because of the culture, they're not going to speak up. And then the third thing is growth becomes stagnant. Former Honeywell CEO David Coate puts it bluntly in his book, Winning Now, Winning Later. If you're not growing, you're dying. Ouch. I know there's a lot of ouches in this episode, but leaders, listen, and I hope you're really taking notes. Are you this person? Do you have these people on your in your C-suite or managing beneath you or underneath you or within your organization? You know what I'm trying to say. Now, here's where it gets interesting. I mentioned islands of excellence earlier. And islands of excellence are, even though you have these three symptoms happening, there are going to sometimes be teams or departments that somehow maintain high performance despite the culture. That's just who they are. That's just what they do. But listen, don't get excited about that. Management researchers Robert Cross and Andrew Parker call these energy pockets in their book, The Hidden Power of Social Networks. I definitely encourage you to read it. These teams often share certain characteristics: strong middle management that buffers them from organizational dysfunction and organizational politics. However, unfortunately, these high-performing teams rarely influence the broader organization. What a waste. What a waste. Everything is just stuck in their team or their department. So what's the solution? 3 critical interventions. So I hope you haven't put your paper and pen down.
Busy professionals want to learn on the go? Start with Audible. Our RDO guests often recommend must-read books. Now, you can listen to them anywhere, anytime. From leadership insights to industry trends, Audible has it all. Get 30 days free and turn your commute into a learning opportunity. Visit our show notes to claim your free trial. Audible, your personal growth companion. Because great leaders never stop learning. Now, back to the show.
Leaders need coaches who provide deliberately developmental relationships with continuous feedback. Marshall Goldsmith said in his book, "What got you here won't get you there." And I quote that often. What got you here won't get you there. The workplace is changing. I say that in probably every other episode. The landscape has changed. The people are changing. The players are changing. What got you here won't get you there. You're going to have to do something different. And leaders, it starts with you. The second thing is leaders need accountability structures where advancement ties to employee engagement and talent retention, not just financial metrics. Leaders, we know the bottom line is the bottom line. And at the end of the day, it's always the end of the day because it's about the bottom line. But I want you to know that your engagement and your talent retention also affects the bottom line. So create some accountability structures where in this area. And then third, leaders need a growth mindset filter. And I call it a filter because it's an opportunity to view feedback as valuable information rather than threats or complaining or negativity. Oftentimes I'll say feedback is a gift, but you have to be willing to receive that gift. And so that's why I'm calling it a growth mindset filter. So when someone comes to you with something you just don't want to hear for whatever reason, I mean, it could be something you really need to hear. Like, don't put your hand on that hot stove, but because you feel like any type of feedback, suggestion is negative, or it's a threat, or it's a complaint that you don't want to hear it. And guess what? If you keep that thought process, which is not a growth mindset, then people will allow the ship to go up in flames. I'm sorry. That's what's happening. That's what happens when you have a team of apathetic members. Am I stepping on any toes yet? Okay. So are you ready for some practical steps? That was the good news. What? The good news? Yes. The good news is always in awareness. When you can become aware of your behavior, when you can become aware of things that you're not aware that you're doing, it's a great opportunity to change it. So that is the good news. I promise you. So here's some practical steps. If you're a leader and you're hearing this and you're wondering if you might be the problem, I have 5 questions I want you to focus on for reflection. And I'll also put these 5 questions in the show notes. So question number 1, when was the last time someone on your team disagreed with you publicly? And what was your response? How did you respond to that? Number 2, how do you respond to bad news? Do people feel safe bringing problems to your attention? Number 3, what percentage of your meetings involve genuine debate versus updates and approvals? Dr. Sam Chan wrote a book called Leaders Create Chaos. And it's positive chaos. You want to, flip some tables. You want to get the only way you're going to get innovative ideas and you move out of the same old is by creating some chaos. Ask some questions, right? If you need some ideas on what questions to ask, just read The Power of One Question, which we'll talk about later. My shameless plug, right in the middle of your questions. Okay. Number 4, how do you measure your effectiveness as a leader beyond financial metrics? I think that is very, very important. How do you measure your effectiveness as a leader? And if you need some ideas on how to come up with other metrics, just let me know. And then number 5, who tells you the truth about your leadership? Ouch. And how regularly do you hear from them? John Maxwell talks about the inner circle and the outer circle, and never shall the two meet. Your inner circle are people that, they're people that you trust. They're people maybe in your C-suite, maybe colleagues from other organizations. You exchange knowledge and information. But then your outer circle are people who may not have anything to do with your industry. And because they're in different industries, they think different. They move different. They are doing innovative things. And so they are a group of people that know nothing about what's happening in your organization. But as a leader, it gives you an opportunity to get some innovative ideas, get some unbiased feedback, and then bring it back, right? Bring it back to your organization. So I would definitely suggest creating an inner circle if you don't have one, as well as an outer circle. And you can meet with your inner circle, out circle, by doing learning lunches. And there are 5 questions, and I'll try to remember to put those in the show notes as well. Questions to ask during learning lunches. So leaders, if you're struggling with these questions, it might be time for what Bill George calls authentic leadership. And that's leadership grounded in self-awareness and a commitment to growth. That's the good stuff. I promise you it's the good stuff. It might not feel good, but it is the good stuff. And if you're not the top leader, if you're not the CEO or you're not in the C-suite, but you're a manager and you have oversight over people and you see some of these patterns in your organization, remember what organizational psychologist Adam Grant writes in Originals. And if you haven't read that book, read Originals. The easiest way to shift other people's attention is to shift your own attention. Focus on building excellence within your sphere of influence while looking for opportunities to model better leadership practices. So as we wrap up today's episode, I'm reminded of something Peter Drucker wrote. The bottleneck is always at the top of the bottle. Ooh. When leaders don't recognize how their behaviors constrain organizational performance, the entire system suffers. But there's hope in this recognition. Leaders who can take the time to reflect and become self-aware and embrace vulnerability, because vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change, according to my girl, Brené Brown. Leaders who can acknowledge their limitations often discover new capacities for impact. It's going to stretch you like you've never been stretched. It's going to get you out of the comfort zone because guess what? The comfort zone is not very comfortable. And if you've been in the comfort zone for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, it's time to get uncomfortable because everything that you know is obsolete. Many things that you know are obsolete. Okay. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know there were a lot of ouches in it, but I hope you enjoyed this episode. Visit the show notes and be sure to grab my newest book, The Power of One Question, and our 2025 Leaders Reading List, our special gift to you for being a valuable listener. Until next time.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Results Driven Organizations podcast with Dr. Taunya Lowe. For all resources mentioned today, guest contact information, Dr. Taunya's results-driven books, and your free gift, visit the show notes. We're dedicated to helping you create results-driven transformation. Until next time.